Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning into this live chat here, navigation chat we have with Penny. Penny is the Director of Rehab for Health Pro Heritage. And we're going to spend probably 20 minutes or so just chatting about, again, the safety net that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks and how outpatient therapy complements some other services of Cedarfield in a very great way. We had a navigation chat so far about the wellness clinic, helping hands, and home health. Those are the other three that we've had, and another complimentary service and amenity at Cedarfield to benefit the residents so that residents can partake in these items temporarily or permanently, more so temporarily with rehab, so that you can age successfully. It's I call it the healthcare delivery system at Cedarfield. So
right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, we're glad that Penny's here.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we have about 10 different items that residents have been asking Penny and myself over the last month or two that we just want to explore with you all, and hopefully shed some little bit more light on what outpatient therapy is. So
okay.
Yeah.
So if you want me to just jump into
let's
what
just talk what is
therapy?
Outpatient therapy?
Well, outpatient therapy, despite us being here where you live, our clinic is truly an outpatient clinic. It is defined as such because we bill under Part B of your Medicare. So it is a different part of your coverage. It is something that Medicare Part B will pay 80% of your outpatient therapy services. Most of you have secondary insurances which cover the remaining 20%. But as we all know, every policy, every company is a little bit different. But outpatient therapy, we are beholden to Medicare guidelines for therapy, which really mean that the services have to be provided by a skilled clinician. Medicare requests that what we're doing is something that has to be done by someone that couldn't be your spouse, your paid caregiver. The skills needed are those of a therapist. That's one of the Part B requirements. The second important and necessary Part B requirement is that as we are providing services, our patients, our residents are making gains, which is sensible, right? You don't want to just be getting a service and not achieving functional gains. So those are the really two hallmarks of outpatient services, that it's a skilled clinician providing care that couldn't be provided by someone else, and that we are goal-driven, goal-directed, and you're making gains.
Great. So speaking of those skilled clinicians, there's three skilled services.
Yeah.
So why don't we just break down for the residents and families listening what those three. I'm a little partial.
I know. I was a little nervous about talking about speech therapy in front of you, Michael.
I'm a little
say,
my bride Julie is a speech pathologist, and so why don't we kick off for all those speech pathologists out there? Why don't we kick off with what's speech pathology?
Speech pathology, actually, I'm glad we're talking about it because it's one of those services, one of those really critical professions that is confused by a lot of people in and out of the medical industry. The name makes you think it's speech purely only, and absolutely speech pathologists are skilled and trained in managing deficits or impairments of speech, whether they're caused by a motor thing, there's muscle problems with speech and articulation, but more broadly, speech and language is a very cognitive skill, whether it's reading, writing, understanding, expressing. There's so much involved in language and language skills that speech therapists become specialized in cognition, attention, memory, concentration, all of those skill sets that we need to be able to communicate. And our speech therapists, Sandra, who's wonderful, works on those fundamental cognitive skills to allow our residents the overall skill of communication and language. The other really critical piece that our speech therapist, or any speech therapist, provides is in swallowing and eating. So, nutrition obviously is such an important thing for all of us, but as you age, it becomes more and more important. And there are a lot of medical impairment situations that put nutrition at risk and put swallowing at risk. So our speech therapists are especially trained in analyzing, measuring, understanding swallow, either training improvements in swallow or finding compensations, which may be different diets and that kind of thing. So, some speech therapists I work with laugh and say, we have the neck up, you guys can have the rest of the body. I challenge that because occupational therapists look at vision. So
that's true.
It's holistic, but yes, that's sort of in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And you can add anything I missed.
The only other thing I would add, when we designed this the space that Health Pro Heritage is in now, back in 2018, since my bride is a speech pathologist, and I know firsthand that speech pathologists are usually put in the back corner of an empty closet, or a closet that they convert to a speech pathologist's office to work with residents. When we designed this space a couple years ago, we said no more is speech going in the corner. Speech is front and center in our program, because the cognition piece that Penny just talked about, it's a very personal time to connect with a speech pathologist on your cognition and your daily rhythm of life and how that speech person can help you. So if you were to walk into this space where Health Pro Heritage is at, the first office on your right-hand side is the speech language office. It's more set up like a living room to put people at ease, so that you can freely have a good relationship and dialogue with our speech therapists over there.
It's a lovely spot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So second skilled function has to do with OT.
Okay, good.
Occupational Therapist.
Hopefully I can get this one right, being that I'm an OT with almost 30 years of experience, which is frightening. So a lot of people, similar to speech therapy, don't have a really great grasp on what occupational therapy is and what we do. And part of that is the title, occupational therapy. I can't tell you how many times I've had people say to me, well, I'm retired. I don't have an occupation anymore. I don't need your service. But in the truest sense of the word, occupational and occupational therapy really means what occupies your time. And given that, it's a broad spectrum of functional skills that OTs focus on. And they can be, when we're working up in healthcare, on the really fundamental, important self-care skills that you need to be able to get back home. Bathing, dressing, toileting. On the other end of the spectrum, occupational therapists work on much more what we consider higher level skills, cooking, driving, medication management, but also hobbies, leisure, really the things that you need to do, want to do to complete your life. And when you look at that very broad spectrum of skills or activities, you look at the underlying aptitude skills you need to be able to do those things: fine motor control, gross motor control, balance, strength, cognition, vision. So we kind of overlap a little bit the other two disciplines that we work with, all with a focus on functional gain, safety, independence, and respect and dignity, really.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Again, just a personal note. My mom is an occupational therapist. Was in the business. She retired last year. In the business for 27 years, and worked in and around retirement communities and or home health. And so, the fortune of residents that live at Cedarfield, you have occupational therapists right here that you can get to know before you maybe even need them. And or speech therapists. So they're two great disciplines that you should have in your village, in your safety net, so that you can tap into them when you think you need them, or lean on them for advice of when you should start to entertain the interventions of one of those therapists.
Yep, absolutely.
So Good. So that's OT, and the third skilled clinician in outpatient therapy is physical therapists.
Which, those of us in speech and OT always kind of feel a little maligned because everybody knows what PT does, but nevertheless, it's not quite true because there are different types of PTs, there's different skills, aptitudes of physical therapists. We have 6 physical therapists here, so we have a very broad team with a lot of skills. I jokingly said to someone when I met someone who was new to the healthcare, what's an OT and what's a PT? And I said, well, the PT gets the person strong, balanced, mobile enough to get from point A to point B. The OT will figure out what they can do when they get to point B. So physical therapy, as the name suggests, is much more physically focused. It truly is strength, range of motion, balance, mobility, locomotion, pain management, exercise protocols. So we do really, with the 3 disciplines together, want to provide care for the whole person with a very physical focus, cognitive well-being focus, and functional focus. And we provide all of that in the clinic here.
That's great.
Yeah.
So can you help me with this next question? There's probably one of the most misunderstood discussions at Cedarfield among the residents is how does Health Pro Heritage or outpatient therapy complement a home health service or an affirmation? How do you all work together to help this bring to life this safety net that we've been talking about for the last 3 months?
Right. We're all necessary parts of the continuum. And I've heard you talk about passing the baton. And I like to think about it more like a jigsaw puzzle because we all fit in different times and different places. It's not really necessarily linear. Mm-hmm. So for an example, our clinicians, our therapists, might work with you if you're unfortunately up in healthcare with a medical need to be there. We will promote and ensure that you have the strength, the function, the safety to return as quickly as possible back to your home. That's everybody's goal. That's our goal. That's your goal. Once you get home, it's really critical that the services that were initiated are continued, and the home is the place to do that at that point. It is a return to a situation in which you've not been for a while, and potentially you're a slightly different person returning to that place. So having services of people who are really specialized in the care in the home at that point is very important. They can address that function in home, they can address any equipment that you might need at home, and continue with the strengthening, the mobility, the safety that has been initiated as part of our services.
Yeah.
And that may not be the end of the road at that point then. There will potentially become a point where they're saying, wow, look how fabulously you've done. We have provided the skills, the expertise that you needed in the home at this juncture, but you could do more. You could get better. There are higher level balance things. There's more cognitive stuff that we worked on that you don't need now to be in the home, and you might then come back to outpatient services. So we kind of fit together like pieces in the puzzle. It's, as I said, not necessarily linear, but we all have our specialties and we all have the right place to serve when you need us.
That's great. Thank you for putting a little light on that.
Yeah.
One additional thing. So talk a little bit about the disciplines, these skilled clinicians, and practicing their skills you were saying it the other day, in the right arena, in the right setting.
Yeah. And you mentioned it too, we in a profession that's as broad as PT or as broad as OT, find our little niche, find the thing that we are passionate about, that we excel at. And so being an OT and an OT and OT is not necessarily the same thing. There are OTs and PTs and speech therapists who have created a career on home health and being that person that has more experience, more skill, more knowledge about what you need to do in a home environment to make it safe, to make it functional, to change this here and add a light there and do whatever it may be to create the safest environment for you. Physical therapists are no different. There are some physical therapists whose skill set and knowledge and experience make them specially suited to a clinic down here with all of our fun tools and high-tech equipment, or in the home where it's truly foundational, safety, exercise in the environment in which you live and you need to thrive. So we're all different, and,
right.
and so we fit where we need to fit, and we excel where we need to excel.
Great. You just mentioned something, special equipment.
Yeah.
So what are you in the gym we have, the outpatient gym we
Yes.
have here, what are your two most treasured pieces of special equipment that the residents should know about and or come to you and say, hey,
Yeah, can I play
can
with
I
this for a
play
minute? So the two things that I think probably are use the most and have the most benefit potentially are, we have something called the Balance Master, which is a machine that can challenge balance. You stand on a moving platform with a video screen in front of you, and it's very interactive, and that you're playing a game as you shift your balance. It's fabulous and fun for a high-level balance training. Balance is a very complex system, and this way we can sort of play with different parts of that system while we're progressing your balance. I've often heard a lot of people saying, at this age my balance is not that great. Balance can be improved at any age. There's a lot we can do. So that's one that I think is really cool. The other one is one of our newest pieces of equipment. It's called the Virtue Sense. And for those of you who came to the skills fair that we had back in October, we did a lot of gait analysis with it. So it's a virtual reality system in which we can do analysis of gait, analysis of reach, analysis of balance, and the system kind of makes you into an avatar and you can see what you're doing. The nice thing about it, a couple of nice things about it is that it will take these analyses and interpret them into a fall risk, and then it'll also provide required or suggested exercises specific to you and specific to the deficits it identified. There's also an app you can download on your phone so you can get your exercises sent straight to you at home. So it has a lot of application that we are just starting to really learn about. But it's kind of fun. I had someone skiing in the gym the other day. I haven't skied in 40 years, but made it through the posts. We did okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
Very contemporary way to help provide therapy
and make it feel fun.
Make
and,
it all the while helping people improve function and strength so that they can age safe and age successfully.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what's when you think about Health Pro Heritage and some special things that you all offer, what are 2 or 3 things that you
I've been really thrilled since I've been here, and it's really only been 18 months. I felt so welcomed by everybody. So last year I started the Discovery Series, which it's a monthly offering in the Fellowship Hall, which is live streamed as well. About an hour, 45-minute talk about varied topics. We've talked about understanding strokes. We've talked about laughter is the best medicine. We've talked about how to manage high blood pressure. So I'm looking forward to putting together a year of those programs for next year as well. And I'm hoping to partner with Jennifer from Affirmation and do a couple of them with her so we can really show and not just talk about how we do complement one another, how our services fit together. We also offer, let me see, I wrote some things down here.
What about the assessments?
Yeah, we offer something called the Comprehensive Health and Wellness Assessment. And as the name suggests, it is very comprehensive. We look at 8 or 9 different aspects of health and wellness, from cognition to nutrition to balance to overall strength to depression. The idea behind it is that we can identify a baseline for you. This is where you sit right now. These are your skill sets. These are your challenges, these are your things you excel at, and then hope to use that as a springboard to help folks transition to some of the fabulous programs here at Cedarfield. There's so much in your wellness department. There's so many offerings. And as outpatient therapists, one of the hardest things is we're kind of sort of at the end of the road. When we finish, it's like, what next? It's not a problem here at Cedarfield like I've had in other places, because you've got Carol, and you've got the fitness center, and you've got the art studio, and you've got so many stimulating intellectual offerings that this comprehensive health and wellness assessment can kind of help us identify where you fit next, and we can streamline those services.
That's great.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think we were talking about the other day was something called Healthy Fit.
Healthy Fit is something that I really hope to kick off in the new year. I'd hoped to do it earlier, but it hasn't happened. Healthy Fit, again, is one of those offerings that we can provide after the skilled nature of your therapy is over. So it's more of a self-pay option that we would work with the residents or your responsible party for. It is still treatment under the supervision of a therapist, but it promotes continuation and makes sure that the things that we've trained you on, the things that we've taught you, do not diminish. And it doesn't necessarily need to be physical. It could be a PT or an OT, but it also can be speech. We have a lot of residents who love Sandra and love speech and want to continue. And it's really hard when we say, well, it's really not skilled anymore. You can sit and do this puzzle or work on this with your spouse, but they want to do it with Sandra. They want to do it with someone that they feel can kind of work with them on a different level. So it provides that sort of middle ground from finishing skilled services and kind of not having anything.
That's great.
So we'll be putting some flyers together, getting that out, and letting everybody know about that as soon as we can.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what attracted Pinnacle Living in Cedarfield to Health Pro Heritage a few years ago, what was the complementary piece of what we know is the pathways to wellness. We have 10 domains of well-being, and Health Pro Heritage has this whole wellness approach, and we were just really, as they were going through the presentation, that initial presentation, really found value of those two different philosophies coming together to serve the resident at Cedarfield in a great way.
You know, wellness is the future of therapy. You know, we, as you have mentioned a number of times, we want our residents to stay vibrant and active and vigorous and involved and all of those things. We don't want to be a service that just is needed after a crisis.
Right.
We want to be able to intervene perhaps through the comprehensive health and wellness assessment and find where your assets are and find where your challenges are before it turns into a crisis. And that way we can potentially see you a year from now and do the same assessment and see, wow, you've blossomed. Look at all these things you've been able to do and the wellness that has been promoted by this wonderful community, and look at where you are now.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So when we think of a safety net and being proactive and having a relationship with Penny and as outpatient therapy, and Jennifer at the Affirmation Home Health, you're able to proactively identify the things as they're coming up, as opposed to being reactive and they becoming a little bit more catastrophic, and we have to catch back up with therapy on some function and strength. So,
yep, absolutely.
Yep. Well, I think that's all of our time. That was a quick.
That went fast.
That's a quick 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Just want to remind folks, first thank Penny for coming. Many of you know Penny already.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. If you haven't had a formal introduction to Penny and her team, I would highly encourage you to go down and do a little meet and greet. Being proactive and knowing your outpatient therapists at the community is just really critical.
We'd love that.
Yeah.
Anybody's welcome.
Yeah. Just want to remind everybody that a couple years ago, our outpatient therapy, we had a contract with another company, and they only saw 20 people a month, 25 people a month. And when I came into this role, just being in the business for 24 years, I was really scratching my head thinking, wow, this is just an underutilized service. So today, we have 130
over the course of a month.
Over the course of a month, we see now 130, 140 people, which is a great thing because it's sending a signal to us that the residents, the educated residents, are proactively seeking out the service as opposed to us just needing to identify who might need it. So
and it's fabulous. And more the merrier. We make it fun down there, I promise.
Penny touched on something. This is our last navigation chat for the year, but in the month of December, in January and February, we're going to see a couple different ways that the residents and or families can stay connected to the wellness clinic, outpatient therapy, and home health by a couple different approaches. We're going to start something called table talks, where you're going to see a 6-foot table in and around probably the restaurants in the promenade or outside the promenade, and Anne will be there one night, Penny will be there another night, Jennifer will be at the table the other night, so you can ask questions of these. Ask them just anything, and have that a little bit of time. We're also going to, Penny touched on something called Discovery Series. So Penny is going to be working with Jennifer. Penny in Health Pro Heritage is going to work with Jennifer in Affirmation. You're going to see them joining forces so that the residents and families, you can see how in those presentations that these two services work complementary with each other, with a variety of topics going into really all of next year. We're going to try to do something every month.
Yeah, we'll definitely have a Discovery Series presentation every month. I know January and February we're trying to do it together. After that, it may be Jen, it may be me. I'd like to put out a whole year's calendar ahead of time so people know and can plan.
Good, that'd be great. Yep. So. And then the third thing we're going to start doing with our Wednesday live chats. Every third week, Penny, Ann, and Jennifer will come in to talk a little bit about outpatient therapy or the wellness clinic and home health, and again, trying to tie this all together so residents can see the value of these three critical services at Cedarfield. All three services are here to stay.
Yep.
No one's leaving. It's a central part of our safety net at Cedarfield. So. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Thank you so much, taking time out of your busy day during the holidays here, otherwise probably going shopping. And but you can also look at this video on Touchdown if you want to recall the information. So have a great day.
Thank you so much.
And we'll talk with you soon.